Slavery. Interesting thought. You'll see this annotation posted in my blog or on the side in a caption. It's a strange thing. Some of the most brutal slavery came at the hands of Africans. When I think about slavery, I go back and I have an understanding that slavery at some points was necessary. The thought is specifically how to coerce an individual with lack of knowledge into behaving, and let's use today's vocabulary, in a civil manner. An individual, a wise man, looks at another individual of lower class, of lower education, and says to himself, this person needs to work. With the ability to grant this individual education, he might set out to train this individual. But what of when this individual decides to turn against the teachings? Now, growing up in a free society, we know that we are supposed to be granted the ability to think without compromise. The seriousness is that any individual with a mind shall and will be able to think. The difference is from the age of 5 to 75, at what point that individual begins to exercise his freedom to think. During the slave trades, when the offerings were such as alcohol and small things, bamboo, metals, and other things that the same wise men probably could not put into use effectively, may be, in fact, the reason for our issues today. As Black Americans, African Americans, understand that there are mentalities that approach issues as such, almost as if to say they don't care. Understand that the mentality, the poise of these characters reflect something along the lines of a nature that we've had to come against continuously to claim our freedom. Now think of some of the things that may have went on in these periods. I would have to think that in most cases these issues can be identified today. Doctors practicing an honest trade that is well known and well needed, but it's questionable how far the doctor can actually progress. What's the seriousness of needing a cure? Why are there not enough individuals communicating with the ability to find that cure? In my mind, it's not that everybody can't be doctors. And in my mind, it's not that there aren't a lot of people willing to be doctors. But it takes a certain skill, a certain amount of realization. Back then, going to the witch doctor who did have the capability of seeing the body versus the earth, and understanding that the ability to be able to cure just may come from the earth. And knowing that no matter what the formula might be, that this formula actually comes from the earth was an excellent thought, or a point of progression. How well this doctor is really capable of comprehending the reality of his tampering with matter is another issue. The point is that you can make this relation in most every circumstance down the line. So why an individual might retaliate is definitely a thought that deserves consideration. Not to say that it doesn't deserve consideration without a reaction, not to say that it doesn't deserve consideration without an answer. In retaliation, we don't necessarily have to include something as literal as rebellion. So the white man has been brutal. It's been a force, a literal force to accept his religion. The thing is, in relation to the white man forcing a religion, there is continuous force in what we call religion. Now, let's keep in mind that religion is made in order to protect. And in no case do I believe that anyone would disagree that protection is needed. But it's a serious note, because in religion there's also race, and in race there's also culture, and in culture there's also biases, and in biases there is also retaliation, and in retaliation there's rebellion, and in rebellion there's punishment, and in punishment there are issues with freedom. In freedom there are laws. Laws take away freedom. So the question is, in this case, what it's going to be. How early you're capable of recognizing these as issues has a direct effect on the ability that you're capable of comprehending and the amount of knowledge you're capable of acquiring through your years. So, when addressing these thoughts and staying along those very lines that we choose to ride in regards to freedom, first come to a realization. Think of the amount of damage that has first been done through the mind, and then think of the thoughts that, when analyzed, project the issue. And on the most serious note, come to the realization that in possibility, one who is free really doesn't need protection, and one who strives to be free needs to protect himself.